One of the hit songs on social media right now, especially TikTok, of course, is a nihilistic ode to the supposedly meaningless nature of our empty and pointless lives. And I know you're probably thinking, wait, isn't that literally every pop song that's been made over the past 35 years? And yes, you're right. The difference is that this song is much more explicit and I would even say, arguably, perhaps eloquent in its nihilism. The song is from TikTok singer Ian McConnell, and it was posted, or seems posted again, actually, only a week ago. It already has nearly 2 million views, tens of thousands of shares, and thousands of very supportive comments. This is in spite of the fact, or probably more because of the fact, that it sounds like a very manic, depressive episode of High School Musical. Listen.
I'm pretty sure that life doesn't have a meaning. And if there's a God, then he doesn't look like me. And I'm just a member of the current apex species. But there'll be another when the humans go extinct. We've only been around 200,000 years of 13.5 billion years. How can we think the pinnacle is here? Isn't that arrogant? There's a couple 100 billion trillion suns, and we act like it all was made for us. There ain't no way that we're the only ones. I'm not important, and neither are you. So let's do whatever we wanna do. Bask in our cosmic insignificance. Soak up this blip we're living in, 'cause nothing matters anyway. Isn't that great?
So there you go. It's a great song if you want to lament your very existence in a cheerful kind of way. As I said, the song seems to have struck a chord on social media. That's no surprise, as nihilism is the dominant worldview in our culture. The belief that life has no inherent meaning is shared by millions of people in our country, especially in the younger generations. Now, anyone we would call a leftist is a nihilist by definition, and many more that we would not call leftists are also nihilists, whether they know it or not. Recently, a new twist on this belief system has emerged, although, like most new things, it's not really new at all. It's called optimistic nihilism. And TikTok is full of explainers on this particular brand of nihilism, a brand that already has its theme song, as we just heard. So here's this random woman explaining what optimistic nihilism is. Listen.
Have you ever heard of the phrase optimistic nihilism? No? Well, let me rewind just a little bit. Nihilism itself is the belief that nothing has any meaning in this life. Life is meaningless and without purpose. Honestly, it's like a little bit of a buzzkill, but when weren't we thinking that in 2020? Now, optimistic nihilism is the belief that if nothing matters, well then, nothing matters. And if nothing matters, then it doesn't matter what you should or shouldn't wear. You wear whatever the you want. If nothing matters, then whatever those bullies said to you in high school, it doesn't matter. And if nothing matters, why do we care what society thinks or tells us what we should be doing? Why does it matter what our bosses, our enemies, and our family thinks? The only thing that matters is you. And when I stumbled upon this new way of thinking, I felt freed. As someone with chronic people-pleasing problems as well as chronic anxiety, this has been a hard one to learn, but it has been the best thing for me.
Now, I'm not really sure why we have to throw out all meaning, the very concept of meaning itself, in order to arrive at the conclusion that the opinions of bullies in high school don't matter. I'd arrived at that conclusion about pretty much everyone in high school while I was in high school, and I didn't need to drain the universe of all meaning to do it. But there's something else she said there that may have caught your ear even more. She said, nothing matters except you. Now, that's one hell of a qualifier. But the thing is, nothing matters except me is the mantra of a narcissist. Are narcissism and nihilism the same thing? That would certainly explain why this worldview is so popular, but we'll return to that point in a moment. The first and foremost problem with nihilism is that it's not true. In fact, the universe was made with a purpose in mind, and each of us individually were made with purpose by an all-loving and powerful God who imbues every moment of our lives with more meaning than we could ever comprehend. Life is bursting with meaning. There is meaning everywhere you look and everywhere you don't look. Nothing is meaningless. Everything you do or say brings you closer to God or farther away. And so you have never done or said anything that's truly meaningless. So the depressed High School Musical guy says that our lives are meaningless because humans will one day go extinct and haven't been on Earth all that long in the grand scheme, and Earth itself is just one planet orbiting one sun out of the trillions of other planets orbiting trillions of other suns. But even taking his argument on its own terms, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why should the fact that we live for so short a time on such tiny a planet in one solar system out of so many countless solar systems mean that our lives aren't important and don't have meaning? Why shouldn't it mean it precisely the opposite? Life is short, all the more reason to cherish it deeply. Humanity itself will one day go extinct, all the more miraculous that you got to exist before it does. The universe is incomprehensibly vast and awe-inspiring. All the more amazing is life then, and the fact that you get to be a part of it. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies is the most convenient way to get fruits and veggies every day. They use an advanced cold vacuum process that encapsulates fruits and vegetables into whole food supplements without sacrificing their natural antioxidants. The capsules are completely void of additives, fillers, extracts, synthetics, pesticides, or added sugar. The only thing in Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie capsules are fruits and veggies. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day. Sounds miserable and time-consuming. Well, with Balance of Nature, there's never been an easier way to ensure that you get your daily dose of fruits and vegetables. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Walsh to get 35% off your first set of fruits and veggies and an additional $10 off every additional set you buy. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Walsh. I've never looked up at the sky at night and felt anything like nihilism. To me, that's like looking at a sunset over the ocean and feeling disgust, or looking at a newborn baby and feeling hatred. Like, it's a sickness to feel that way. Something is deeply wrong inside of you. Now, of course, we know that a horrifying number of people have felt something like that last emotion about the baby, so perhaps it is no surprise that the night sky makes them feel like life is pointless, when it should inspire them in the opposite direction. But nihilism's falsehood is not even really its biggest problem. Its biggest problem is its dishonesty. You know, it's one thing to be false. It's another thing to lack the integrity to be honestly false. After all, I guarantee that every single one of these TikTok nihilists, especially the optimistic variety, would very earnestly insist that racism is a major problem, and homophobia is a terrible thing, and quote-unquote transphobia is an epidemic, and the patriarchy must be smashed, and all the rest of it. But if they were really nihilists and really have the courage of their own convictions, they would happily say that racism, homophobia, etc., don't matter any more than life itself matters. And if life doesn't matter, then who cares about racism? White supremacists could stage a violent overthrow of the country and enslave every racial minority in existence, and it wouldn't matter, because nothing matters. If nothing matters, then nothing matters. You cannot say that nothing matters and then turn around and condemn any form of bigotry, real or imagined, or engage in any kind of activism at all of any sort. Because condemnations and exhortations all rest on the assumption that stuff matters. And if no stuff matters, then there is nothing to condemn and no reason to exhort anyone to do anything or not do anything. Nothing matters, remember? I wonder, what if one of these supposed nihilists heard a conversation like this playing out in the world? Person A says, black people are oppressed in this country. Person B says, doesn't matter. Person A says, what do you mean? Black people are suffering. Person B says, yeah, but black people don't matter. Now, the nihilist must agree with person B. You're not a nihilist if you don't agree. So if you claim to be a nihilist, you must wholeheartedly concur with person B's conclusions. And yet we all know that the shirtless ginger guy with the keyboard sure as hell isn't making a cheerful little tune called Black People Don't Matter anytime soon, or gay people don't matter, or trans people don't matter, even though he allegedly believes none of these people matter. Their lives don't matter at all. Like, at all. They could not exist. They could all cease to exist. Even a genocide that wiped all of them out wouldn't matter at all in the slightest. A genocide of 1 million people is like stepping on a bug. That's the true nihilistic viewpoint. If you don't have that viewpoint, you're not really a nihilist. A real nihilist would have to shrug his shoulders at all that. It doesn't matter. They don't matter. Nothing matters. Who cares? And yet these nihilists certainly would not shrug their shoulders at that, and I'm not saying they should. I happen to actually oppose genocide and persecution and slavery and bigotry, but I'm allowed to oppose those things because I think human beings do matter. I think they have inherent worth and dignity. That's the fundamental basis for having any opinion about how any human being is treated, including yourself. And that brings us to the greatest contradiction here of all, which was illustrated by that nothing matters except you line. Because if nothing matters, then you don't matter either. And if you don't matter, then nothing that happens to you matters. You have no reason to ever feel offended, insulted, persecuted. You shouldn't really care if you're mistreated. You shouldn't care if your rights are taken away. In fact, you should recognize that you don't really have any rights to begin with, at least not any rights that should matter to anyone, because nothing matters. Yet the very act of making a song to promote nihilism is a refutation of nihilism. You can't even argue for it without refuting it. Because if nihilism is true, then it also doesn't matter whether anyone knows that it's true. Like, taking your time to convince anyone to believe it is absurd. It's totally meaningless. Putting your energy into anything at all under nihilism is absurd, but putting your energy into the pursuit of advancing any sort of idea is especially absurd. Indeed, if there can be any sin in this nihilistic worldview, the only sin is to care whether anyone else is a nihilist. Because if nothing matters, then what could possibly matter less than convincing other people that nothing matters? But hardly anyone actually believes that nothing matters. The nihilist is, in the end, just a loser, disappointed in his own life, too lazy to pursue anything better, and so narcissistic that he seeks to make himself feel better by pulling everyone else down into his misery alongside him. That's what nihilism really is. And that's why nihilists, optimistic or not, are today canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.